Not as good as Paranorman, better than Box Trolls. I'd say just under Kubo, but this one has more to say. Hey guys, just a solo review today, just because I needed to get this done, and this was like the only time I was gonna have a free chance before next week, so I was thinking, alright, well no one's available right now, so I'll just go see it solo. So yeah, this is The Missing Link, and for those who've been aware of my show for a long time know I'm a big Leica fan. I really appreciate the company. I don't think they get nearly the credit they deserve, or at least the financial success they deserve. I mean, critically, most of their movies are like, even their lowest one, with I think it was Box Trolls, is doing like in the 70s on Rotten Tomato. Not that that's really a measure of success, but that's how we usually go nowadays. And like they're all usually really like either great or just really solid movies. Even Box Trolls, which is one like is the more forgettable of the bunch, still had a few points that made me laugh. And this is their newest outing, Missing Link. I'm gonna adjust this because I'm way off center. It's bugging me. There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really solid movie. Like just like I said before, it's not as good as Paranorman, but then again, I hold Paranorman to really, really high regard. Like in my opinion, that's still like the best they've ever done in my opinion. And I loved Kubo. I thought Kubo was really good. Didn't quite get to Paranorman levels. And Coraline, I know it's a lot of people's favorites. To me, I kind of think it was a little overrated. A little overrated, not a lot overrated. But I always thought the movie had pacing issues. And of course, Box Trolls was good, but it wasn't really great. It was like, all right, that was fine. That was a little fun, imaginative trip, and at least it was definitely original, so you can't like knock it for that. And this is their newest one, The Missing Link, which is a road trip movie starring Hugh Jackman and Zach Galifianakis with Zoe Saldana, with Stephen Fry playing one of the villains, which I didn't realize that was him until the end credits. So I don't know, maybe I just wasn't paying that much attention. And yeah, it's pretty solid. It's pretty good. I think it's not the funniest one they've made, and it's not the most visually interesting, although it's still definitely visually interesting. But it's definitely not the most visually interesting. The most I take it back. I say it's pretty character-driven. But I think the characters and what it's trying to say kind of makes up for its shortcomings in terms of like the actual stakes of the story, which like didn't really bother me personally, but I think that's something that's going to bug some people. Because honestly, this movie it's a pretty straightforward adventure film. Like, there's not a whole lot to this plot. It's all about, I almost said Hugh Grant, Hugh Jackman, who plays this, like a wannabe adventurer. He's an adventurer who hunts ancient myths. Like, we see him, like, he's like going for, like, the Sherlock, but if he was also one of the Mythbusters kind of people. Sorry if I take long breaths in this. My allergies are acting up. It's really bad here in California right now. So just keep that in mind. And like with the first time we open up to him like hunting the Loch Ness monster with this poor little motherfucker who's like a stand-in for Watson, like yeah, he's very focused on, because he really wants to be a part of the Adventure Club, or the Republicans, depending on how you view this movie. I'm not gonna go on a anti-Republican rant here, although I do think this movie does have a lot to say, but has a very strong anti-colonial message, which I'll talk about. Because honestly, that was probably the most interesting part of the movie for me, was actually the subtext of what it was actually trying to say through the adventure. I actually thought that was very interesting and shockingly progressive for a kids movie like that. And the Leica movies have really been good at that, like kind of hammering familiar messages, but also with a slightly more mature tone. Like Paranorman in particular really did a great job with that. We're showing like having an anti-bullying message, but also acknowledging that the bullies won't necessarily, aren't ever really going to go away. They're still going to exist. So how do you cope with that and how you deal with that? So Leica's always had a really good way of taking traditional messages and making them for a more mature audience that trust the intelligence of the audience to get those messages. That being said, I do feel like the message in this one is probably, honestly, more geared towards adults, because it does talk about, like exploring the world without, and this is my interpretation, I'm sure, it's probably not that deep movie, but I thought it was interesting to think about. The movie really kind of has an anti-colonial message. It basically says that the world can and should be explored without the intention of conquering or pillaging or claiming, I guess. It's more just acknowledging that this part of the world exists and that we are a part of it, and we should appreciate that we're a part of it rather than just trying to plunder it for all it's worth. Really seems to be the overall, and that includes like exploring other cultures and stuff as well. And that, I think, is the overall message of the film, while also accepting elements from different cultures or different ideas or people's ideas of what the world is, that we should just kind of accept them, incorporate into our worldview, as long as it's not dangerous or harmful to others. That's my take on it anyway. Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. But no, this movie is like, so yeah, it's Hugh Jackman who decides he wants to be part of the Adventure Club. The Adventure Club established very early on is a bunch of these old hoity-toity white dudes who all claim to have these big epic adventures of conquest and victory, and we claim whatever we have and we shape the world in our image. It's like, okay, so this is like either anti-colonial or anti-republican. Honestly, you could probably make a good argument there. I'm sticking with anti-colonial for now, just so I don't get a bunch of angry Republican comments. Not that they watch my show anyway. But they think that, but the people of the Adventure Club think that Hugh Jackman's full of shit, that all of his ideas are nonsense, he has nothing to contribute, and he should just go away and take his nonsense ideas with him. And then he says, like, well, I have evidence that Sasquatch exists. I'm gonna go find it. And he goes, and then Stephen Fry, bad guy says, basically says, like, oh, you're full of shit. And he goes, oh, well, fucking put your money where your mouth is, asshole. And I'm paraphrasing here. And then he goes, well, fine, you little shithead. I'll take your word on that. If you actually find your goddamn Sasquatch, I'll let you in, and I'll apologize for being wrong. Deal. All right. So then Hugh Jackman goes to Washington to find the Sasquatch, and he does. It's played by Zach Galifianakis. He plays a Sasquatch who is taught himself perfect English. And, but it turns out that the Sasquatch, who later calls himself Susan, which is something I'll talk about a little later, because I thought, again, going to the progressive angle, the way they handled that, I thought was very, very interesting. Like, honestly, like, as far as progression goes, the movie's actually really, like, does a lot to that, with exception of one scene, which I'm wondering might be quasi-offensive, but it only happens once, so I'm just kind of choosing to, like, just throw that one aside. Like, I'm not gonna throw it on the bus over one scene that may or may not be offensive. I don't know. I'm not part of that culture. I'd be kind of curious if you know what I'm talking about. If you chime in with your own thoughts, I don't know. Anyway, and so Susan comes to him and basically says, like, well, I'm the only one of my kind here. I'm really lonely, and the world's getting smaller, and I'm slowly getting pushed out. Again, going back to the anti-colonial message. And so I want to go with my brothers who all moved to the Himalayas. So I was like, I would like you to take me to the Himalayas, please. To Shangri-La. And he's okay, I will take you there in exchange for proof that you exist. Like, okay, fair enough. So they go off on a road trip. And yeah, the rest of the movie is just them going to, like, traveling to Shangri-La, and then they pick up Zoe Saldana, who I guess was the wife of I guess a fellow, like, archaeologist who found, like, the path to Shangri-La that Hugh Jackman's character wants, and shenanigans happen, and she ends up joining along. Yeah, and the rest of the movie is, it's a very character-driven story where it's all about, there's a lot of talking in this movie, which is going to work for some people. Like, I don't know how well that's going to read to kids, but that being said, like, the kids, I saw this a fairly full, like I'd say like a quarter full theater of kids, and they all were laughing the entire time, so they clearly enjoyed this film. And, yeah, the rest of the movie is just basically them talking about their desires, their hopes, their fears, and it's a very character-driven movie, and that's a lot of reason why I like it. It's very slow-paced, it takes its time, and again, that's going to work for some people, and it's not going to work for others, but that being said, I also appreciate that, like, element of just taking the audience seriously, and really just respecting them to not feel like they need to shove something in their face every 2 seconds to keep them engaged. It's trusting the audience to stay invested. It's trusting the audience to be along for the road. It's trusting the audience to get what's being talked about, while also throwing the occasional raspberry in there for good measure. Like, there's still, like, jokes and stuff for kids, but there's also just a lot of talking. There's a lot of character building. There's a lot of conversations, and the conversations can be funny. There's a few parts I thought were a few lines that got a good chuckle on me. They're the jokes that none of the kids got, but I laughed at it. And, yeah, it's just a slow, well-paced, really kind of calming and soothing kind of road trip movie. And that's something else I really appreciate about this movie, too, is the fact that it doesn't try... like I mentioned before, there's no pandering. There is no, like, oh, we need to throw in a fart joke here so the kids will laugh. We need to throw constant noise and shit at you all the time in order to get the emotions across. And there's a lot of slapstick, but there's also a lot of quiet moments in there too. And there's also a lot of slow moments where the characters are just absorbing what's around them, and those are nice moments. And everyone's really well defined. Everyone's really well written. Everyone has pretty clear arcs. Zoe Saldana, who is supposed to be the love interest, is not the trophy at the end of the adventure, which I also really appreciated. Which kind of goes in the progressive angle. She wants her own thing, and it's not exactly necessarily to be with Hugh Jackman's character. It's more like she wants to do her own thing, and that's what she does. And I appreciate that about this movie. And that just goes to the way everyone kind of accepts each other's goals and wants to the film is also really appreciated, even though it does take place in an older time. Like, for example, like there's this, it's in the trailer, so I'm not giving this away. There's a part where Zach Galifianakis, Sasquatch, I guess he doesn't have a name because he hasn't been around people for forever, and he's never had like family or anything to give him a name. So Hugh Jackman's character, who's trying to learn like empathy, comes up there and says like, well, think of somebody who mattered to you and like name yourself after them. And so Zach Galifianakis tells a story about how he like met a prospector who was really didn't talk to him, but just looked at him without judging and looked at him with acceptance and just smiled. And her name was Susan, so he calls her Susan. And Hugh Jackman, again, this is in the trailer, Hugh Jackman is kind of initially taken back by that, like, but that's a girl's name. And he goes, yeah, I want to be called Susan. And Hugh Jackman just goes, okay, you're Susan. And he just accepts and he goes with it. And it's kind of nice to see that. There's a really nice calming air, like almost a meditative energy about this film. That just, you just kind of feel like you're alone for the ride. Because the stakes are pretty low. There's no really like running clock. I guess there kind of is, but it's not really that strong necessarily. It's not to say like there's no like actual like stakes or danger or anything like that, but it's deliberately low key. Which will either work for you or it won't. But it worked pretty well for me. Like, I walked away pretty happy with what I saw out of this. If I had like any real complaints about this movie, it would be the villains. Because there are two villains in the film. There's the main adventure guild guy, who's played by Stephen Fry, and I get his purpose for the movie. He's like the representative of like the old angry white man who thinks they own the world and everything belongs to them, and then have the right to conquer it or destroy it at their leisure. He's definitely like the representation of like the old entitled white man who thinks they own everything. That was very much part of the colonial and/or again Republican Party or Trump supporter, if you want to go that far. Am I reaching, though? I want to say I'm reaching, but, like, am I? I don't know. I think you can honestly... But then again, I don't know how long ago this went to production, so that could just be me totally projecting, like, modern-day politics onto it. Anywho, but either way, the point is you get his purpose for the story. You get why he's there. You get that he's definitely there to get a part of the message across. And while I kind of wish he was a more in-depth character, I can at least see why he was there to make me kind of forgive it a bit more. There's also a second main antagonist who definitely sticks around a lot longer. His name is like Stink, something like that. And he's basically just the hitman that Stephen Fry character hires to go hunt down Hugh Jackman to make sure that he can't win the bet. And he's there just so the movie can have conflict. That's really the only reason he's there. Like, they try to give him like this backstory about how he's like a big game hunter. Again, kind of goes into the anti-colonial, anti-conquering, anti-take what we want message of the movie. But it's not really done with, like, they don't really do enough with it to really, like, to really give it that much of a purpose. I'm trying to find the name of the goddamn Stinky Pete character. Stank. I wasn't far. Stank. Who's, of course, is Timothy Oliphant. Okay. I never would have guessed. But he's like just like this big game hunter who just shows up whenever the character beats are done to cause a conflict that forces them to move on to the next scene. And that's really kind of all he is. He's really boring, and it gets to the point you're just kind of waiting for his scene to be done because he, like, again, outside just being the conflict that drives the action forward, there's really not a whole lot of reason for him to be there. So, it's like, it would have been okay if there was a bit more to him, or he's a bit more interesting, or there was, like, just kind of, I don't know, maybe more personal stakes in that. But he's not. He just goes there, they have a fight and or chase scene, and then he leaves for a while, and he comes back later. So, functionally, I see its purpose in the film, but it doesn't really have anything to, like, it doesn't add a whole lot to the actual message of the film, to the actual discussion by, like, not architecture, of, oh my god, I'm blanking on the term. Archaeologist? No. It'll come to me. To the exploration of different cultures and ideas and exploring the world in your own way. And again, discovering new things, discovering new ideas. It doesn't add much to the feeling of discovery versus conquest that I feel like the movie's going for. So outside of, again, just being an antagonist to fight at the end. And so yeah, really whenever he was on screen, I was just kind of waiting for his scenes to be over, and that includes the climax of the film as well, where I felt that kind of dragged out a bit, like long past where there was a point to what was going on. So like, yeah, that's really my biggest complaint about the film, though. Otherwise, I think it's a really solid movie. I think it's very successful at what it is, if that makes sense. It could be the case where the message of the film might be a little more interesting than the film itself. That being said, if you're in for like a calmer adventure film where you just have a bunch of characters you like and you're willing to follow them around, and you just want I'm trying to think of the best. You just want a good road trip movie. You just want a solid adventure road trip movie that has people you like and a decent story and a good message. So, and probably one of the deeper messages I think that Laika's gone for this time, at least as far as a global scale, because so far a lot of their messages have been very like intimate and family based. But this is the first one I think they've done. Maybe Box Trolls did it. I don't remember the movie that well. And I especially didn't watch at a time where I was not this analytical about film. And honestly, you can thank the editorials for that, because goddamn, studying for those editorials have really taught me a lot about reading layers. So, goddamn, you guys should see some of the shit I've written that I haven't actually produced yet. My god. I'm really tooting my own horn here. But yeah, I really liked Missing Link. I think it's a solid watch, and you should go support it, because apparently not a lot of people are. So, I hope it does better, like in DVD and Blu-ray sales. And I hope Laika finally gets that big success they deserve, because goddamn it, they really need to win. So yeah, that was my final thoughts on that, really. So I'm gonna go briefly over trailers, most of the ones I haven't talked about already. And then I'm gonna go home. So first trailer I got is the new trailer for Toy Story 4, which could really go either way. I mean, it is Pixar, and as far as like Disney, like Pixar sequels go, really it's the Toy Story ones they haven't really fucked up yet. So I'm just hopeful that this one is kind of that same situation, that this one they also managed to pull this one off. The trailer doesn't really sell me on it though, so it's just gonna be a wait and see for me. Because there's also the case of why. And then I got the trailer for the Abominable one again, which, again, it's weird to see, like, 2 fucking Yeti movies, and 3 if you include this one, like, released in the past, like, 2 years. So, like, why is there so many movies about the goddamn Yetis lately? I don't know why. This one looks like another one, except this time the Abominable Snowman is a dog, like, stand-in, I guess. So, yeah. And then the only other new one I got past that was the Addams Family trailer. It's actually the first time I've seen this trailer. I am curious about it. I mean, the trailer like didn't really do a lot for me, but I'm curious to see that it does at least look like it's embracing the weirdness of the Addams Family. And if it just like really doubles down on that, you can make it really work. That being said, I don't really like the designs of the characters. I don't know what it is. It's too round, I guess, especially with the girl's head. I forget her name. And like some of the lines in the trailer weren't really that great. But that being said, I do like just some of the odd imagery of just like the dad sitting on his head, telling the kid to launch like the bomb that's attached to like F4 on the keyboard. So like shit like that I like. So if it doubles down on all the weirdness, then maybe we can go along with it. That being said, that joke about the red balloon with a clown, I was like, okay, that was a dumb joke. But I don't know. You can go either way. But Addams Family is always one of those franchises that the weirder it gets, the better it is. So if they really, again, it just really depends on how weird they're willing to go. So that was the last trailer I got for today. At least the last one I feel like is worth talking about. So yeah, next week it's more just going to be what we can cover before Endgame comes out. So that means The Curse of La Llorona. Definitely gonna go see that, and then I think we're gonna try to see Breakthrough, which is like the newest Christian movie, but it's one I've gotten a trailer for like 5,000 times, so I feel kind of obligated to go see it. But beyond that, yeah, listen, Link, go see it. It's fun. I had a good time. It has some good stuff to say. It's worth your time. So yeah, that's all I got, guys. Thank you all for watching. See you later.